ASEAN is a cornerstone of Singapore's foreign policy, allowing the country to foster regional peace and security. Senior Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Maliki Osman, says this allows Singapore to pursue its strategic, economic and socio-cultural priorities. Dr. Maliki also says that collectively, ASEAN is an attractive platform for major powers to engage the region.
This amplifies ASEAN's collective voice on the international stage. ASEAN also serves as a channel to coordinate collective responses to regional crises. For example, through ASEAN's humanitarian assistance and disaster relief efforts, we are able to alleviate the situation in the Rakhine State.
And for more, we're joined in studio by Foreign Affairs Minister Vivian Balakrishnan. Minister, welcome.
Hi.
Now, we've got quite a bit of ground to cover. It's good,
yes.
good to have you on. So let's start with our neighbours, Malaysia, going through sort of a new leadership change.
Yes.
Both countries, Singapore and Malaysia, several ongoing projects, water being one, rail links another.
Yes.
How are you sort of seeing this sort of play out?
Well, I think they've been through a dramatic week, but we wish them all the very best. We hope for a leadership that maintains continuity, and in particular for us, because we have ongoing projects with them. The HSR, the RTS, the ongoing discussions on water, all of these are live issues. There are deadlines, and some decisions need to be made. So we are waiting for the appointment of the cabinet, and we'll take it from there.
Minister, we've heard tonight from the new Malaysian Prime Minister, and we know he is someone with a very long track record in politics. Yes. You've also worked with him. Tell us about your experience working with him.
Well, in fact, I just saw him last month, and I took the opportunity to brief him on some of the discussions and negotiations. But you've hit on the key point, which is that he is familiar with us. He was the former Menteri Besar of Johor. In fact, most people don't even realize he was a key negotiator for the 1990 Supplementary Water Agreement. So he's completely familiar with this. So I'm sure he'll be able to hit the ground running. And as I said, we'll wait for him to appoint his cabinet, and we'll continue the discussions from there.
We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Let's move on to COVID-19 and specifically how we're sort of engaging sort of China. Singapore has had to make quite a few decisions in trying to bring Singaporeans back home. But that proved successful. There must have been challenges, though.
Oh, it was challenging. But the key point is that we will leave no Singaporean behind. You know, Singaporeans live and work all over the world now. You'll be surprised at where they get to, and sometimes they'll get into trouble. But I want to give that assurance that it may take us some time, it may take enormous effort, but we will not leave you behind.
Still on COVID-19, how has Singapore actually been able to leverage on technology and digital infrastructure to respond so quickly to the situation?
Well, partly, the ability to respond overnight depends on your investments in the years beforehand. And in particular for the digital space, we've recruited talent, we've built up engineering capacity and infrastructure. And that's why, for instance, Mask Go Where, or even this WhatsApp channel for the government with more than 500,000 subscribers. We could do that very quickly because we've got the talent. We've got people, we've got engineers, and they're fired with a sense of mission and enthusiasm. So it's allowed us to do things which would not have been possible in the past.
So how has the reaction been from Singaporeans, though, to Mask Go Where and gov.sg's WhatsApp?
I think take a step back. The COVID-19 situation is a serious situation. Many people are concerned, and in fact, if you watch what's happening in the rest of the world, you know that this is not something that's going to disappear overnight. Now, I'm confident, and I think Singaporeans are confident, that we've got a good handle on it here. But Singapore is not just an island, and what happens in the rest of the world will affect us. Singaporeans are confident that we will do whatever is necessary to protect Singaporeans. We will do whatever is necessary to repatriate Singaporeans who need help. But we also need to be a responsible member of the international community. We need to be credible, transparent, reliable. It is these attributes in a crisis which actually give us a strong position after the crisis. And so it's important for us to hold our own domestically, as well as maintain that reputation for reliability, transparency, honesty on the international stage.
And speaking of the international stage, we are seeing COVID-19 sort of spread around the world.
Yes.
Are there some examples that perhaps they can take from how Singapore has sort of handled it?
I think it is most unfair. We are a city-state, we're a single layer of government. We're a government that has learned lessons from the episode 17 years ago with SARS. We take crisis preparation very, very seriously. We are able to make decisions, execute these plans with a speed that is very hard to replicate elsewhere. So first point I would make is that it's not a fair comparison. But having said that, because we live in a world that is so interconnected with so much traffic, you can't just protect Singapore and then hope that the situation will resolve elsewhere. So I am worried with the way it's spreading in Asia, in Europe, and the really worrying thing you need is what will happen in Africa, in the Middle East, and maybe even parts of South America. So this is a time for global concern. This is a time for us to work together, for us to be constructive. And I would say our Ministry of Health, as well as MFA, is all working overtime because we need to build those relationships. In fact, we need to strengthen the ongoing relationships so that we can cooperate and handle this collectively as a world. This is a worldwide problem, and no country alone can solve it.
Minister, you, of course, oversee the Smart Nation and the Digital Government Office. How successful has the government been in engaging Singaporeans in this area?
Well, at several levels. First, I believe that we have made technology far more accessible. In terms, if you look at the people who are using gadgets, smartphones, apps, the numbers are very gratifying. And it's not just the young, but everyone is using it. And the examples you can think about, the health apps, the National Steps Challenge. And then if you look at the way people are using the SingPass mobile and the suite of services. I need to make this other plug. In fact, for e-registration, we've now just made it even more simple. With SingPass mobile, you just need to log on. You don't even need to type in your name. You just tell us where and when you will be. This is an example. So really the intention is to make technology disappear, make services accessible and accessible to everyone. And I'm really proud of the way our engineers and the multi-ministry teams have worked together to make all these services available. So if you look at digital identity, you look at e-payments, you look at the integration of government services, you look at the way we're trying to reduce the number of licenses, the way we're re-engineering government processes at the back end. That's where the real payoff is.
And I suppose it would just make things easier to flow, easier to track, and easier for us all to sort of function.
Yes, absolutely. We live in an era when people are used to social media, are used to integrated services provided by private companies, and it's usually overseas companies. I think people expect the same of their own domestic government services. And that's the level of service delivery, of responsiveness, of integration that we need to aim for. And I think we're making major steps in the right direction.
But we also have an aging population. We must not forget about them as well. How do you then try and engage them into this whole new digital wave that Singapore is going through?
Well, if you come to some of our community events, the thing which really warms my heart is to see young people acting as buddies for seniors. Taking the handphone, showing them, this is the way you log on to SingPass. This is the way you check on your CPF account. This is the way you check on your bank account. This is the way you engage in e-commerce or transfer money and remain in control. In fact, it is another opportunity for social bonding, multi-generational social bonding. So again, my focus is not on technology. My focus is on people, on jobs, on society, on relationships, and improving the quality of life for ordinary citizens, young and old, being inclusive, making sure no one is left behind, no one is excluded from the digital revolution, And so if you come onto the ground, you will see it. And in fact, to give you another heads up, in July, we'll have a Playscape, we'll have Cityscape, and these are big exhibitions where we will show people how we are embedding technology into making our city function even better. And more importantly, for the apps that we will, and services that we will deliver, to get feedback from people, it'll make a difference to the design and the way we execute and deliver those services. So it's a wonderful opportunity, again, for us to work as one society. And coming back to COVID, the real test is in a crisis. And the fact that our systems have held up despite the enormous challenges, despite, if you take, say, mask away, I think within the first day they had to deal with 1 million hits. To be able to deliver that level of service for something which you only dreamed of the night before, I'm very proud of the team of engineers that we have.
So we have good preparations in place and we're not going to leave anybody behind.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Foreign Affairs Minister and, of course, Minister in charge of the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office.